Blackbird's nest. Early one morning, when all of Ireland slept beneath a quilt of wintry white, a baby boy was born. His mother traced his wrinkle of a mouth, his perfect eyelashes, and half-moon fingernails. She kissed his forehead as warm and soft as bread dough. As she cradled her babe at the open door, her eyes widened with wonder. In the forest beyond, snowflakes had coated the tree branches, but melted at the moment they touched the earth, encircling her home. She had never seen such a thing before. When the baby was 40 days old, he was baptized. As the priest lifted the infant from the water, he blessed him and said, "Beautiful child of God, you shall be called Kevin," meaning gentle one. But the gentle baby Kevin grew into a mischievous boy. He chased girls with stinging nettles and shoved smaller boys out of his way. When the village children saw him coming, they ducked into their homes. He pushed and shoved. He bullied. He was anything but gentle. But with animals, Kevin was different. When they heard his footsteps in the woods, they waited. Deer stood so still he could pet them. Butterflies lit on his shoulders, and geese followed him home. Kevin befriended every animal he met. This puzzled his parents. Their son was so awkward with people, yet completely at home with animals. When the front door creaked open, they cringed. What creature was Kevin clutching this time? Was it an injured goose, a snapping turtle, or a scrawny puppy? At night, Kevin shared his bed with his animal friends, whose soft breathing lulled him to sleep. When he was 7, Kevin's parents sent him to live at a monastery, where he could learn to read, write, and pray. As he knelt beside the monks in the chapel, he felt he almost belonged there. But the monks struggled with the unruly Kevin. He tripped over their feet when he rushed late into chapel. He pretended not to hear when they reminded him to scrub the hallways of the floors. And sometimes he even snuck into the kitchen and stole bread for the ducks. As Kevin grew older, the monks only grew wearier of his antics. One year, when he was a teenager, they asked him to spend the 40 days of Lent praying alone in the desolate valley. As he trudged into his solitary hut, he wondered why no one wanted him around. He felt very alone. The next morning, while Kevin prayed with his arms outstretched through the window of his hut, he felt something drop into his hand. He opened his eyes. A blackbird perched on his open palm with a twig in her beak. She looked directly at Kevin, as if to ask him a question. Over the next few days, Kevin held out his arm as the blackbird wove a nest of stalks, moss, and twigs in his hand. Kevin cradled the nest, even as the blackbird laid her eggs. "Lord, have mercy," he whispered. Day followed day, and Kevin stood as still as a tree. He ate the berries the blackbird fed him and drank from the dew on his lips. He did not even scratch his nose, although he desperately wanted to. His knees were stiff, his outstretched arm was growing weak, and his fingers were turning blue. "Lord, have mercy," he whispered. One morning, Kevin awoke to a wiggling egg. Days later, the egg split open, revealing a scrawny, exhausted chick. A second egg wiggled. Within a few days, the nest was full of newly hatched chicks. "Lord, have mercy," Kevin whispered. Soon, the fast-growing chicks peered over the nest's rim. Kevin watched as the baby birds learned to fly. They flexed their oversized wings, flopped from the nest, and landed in the dirt. 40 days after the mother blackbird had first lit on Kevin's hand, the last baby bird left the nest. Kevin collapsed on the flagstone floor of his hut, closed his eyes, and whispered, "Amen." Kevin slept for hours. When he awoke, his body ached. Suddenly, the words from his baptism came to him. "Beautiful child of God, you shall be called Kevin," meaning gentle one. He knew that it was time to let people, not just animals, into his heart. He leapt to his feet. He must return to the monastery for the great feast of Christ's resurrection. Kevin arrived just in time. During the service, candlelight spread from one wick to the next, and brightness surged through Kevin's soul. Holding his own flickering candle, he peered into the faces of his brother monks, as if he were seeing them for the very first time. Kevin never forgot the spring the blackbirds hatched in his hand. One day he returned to the valley where he spent that long ago Lent and founded a new monastery. Kevin lived to be 120 years old and took his last breath encircled by his beloved fellow monks. He was buried near the monastery church. For more than 1,000 years, pilgrims have flocked there to pray, but years of wind, rain, snow, and sunshine have worn out the words off of the gravestones, and nobody is quite sure where his body lies. But the blackbirds remember. When the din of the pilgrims' voices and footsteps fade away, they return. Perching on a single weathered cross, they sing gently to their friend. So that's the end of the story, but here you can see a picture of the icon of St. Kevin, which I think is pretty cool when he has the deer there. He's out in the wilderness. And so just from the historical side, it says that St. Kevin was born in Ireland in AD 498 to a royal family. According to legend, his mother gave birth to him without pain or struggle. The first winter of Kevin's life, the snow fell and his home melted as if a circle of warmth protected the house. So that's kind of what they showed in that first page. He was baptized by St. Cronin and given the name Comgan or Kevin, meaning of fair birth or gentle one. When Kevin was 7 years old, his parents sent him to get educated at the monastery where he studied under St. Petroc of Cornwall. After he was ordained to the priesthood, he lived as a hermit for 7 years. He eventually became the abbot and founder of Glendalough, one of Ireland's most famous monasteries. Just before he died in 618, he visited with Syrian. St. Kevin's feast day is commemorated on the 3rd of June. His life was first recorded 400 years after his death, and because of this, the accounts of his life are fragmentary and legendary. So we don't know a lot because we first documented it 400 years after he had passed away. So sources suggest that he was a quirky fellow that struggled with other people, but was at ease with wild creatures and the Creator. St. Kevin's life was enriched by his friendship with winged, four-legged creatures, and he remains an example of ceaseless prayer and brave gentleness.